Call this meeting to order. Thank you everybody for coming. This is the Lake Pend School District number 84, regular board meeting number 814. It's Tuesday, July 14th, 2026 at 5 p.m. We are now in session. And the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand and move your head here. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as published.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. First up on administration, we have our technology program report with Director of Technology, Matt Brass. Good evening, Matt.
Right. Matt Brass, the Director of Technology. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about our cybersecurity program. Didn't realize the community had such an interest in technology. Okay, over the last several years, obviously cybersecurity has been a big threat, especially to schools. Education is one of the most targeted industrial industries globally, and the shift from denial of service attacks to ransomware and double extortion is really what we've seen happening across the landscape, especially with the introduction of AI. Over the last 3 to 4 years, we've shifted as a department our focus more and more into security. We found ourselves kind of playing security whack-a-mole. What we really wanted was a system that encapsulates industry standards, but really fits into our specific environment. So this led to a solid focus moving from reactive to proactive and working toward improvement with a really clear plan. Our goals from the beginning were to identify strengths and gaps, prioritize future work, increase transparency, align with industry best practices, build a repeatable, auditable review, and then harden our operational procedures. So, next slide. We built an internal program with full audit based off the Center for Internet Security, their critical security controls. The important thing isn't necessarily the framework itself, but it's that we now have a consistent way to measure ourselves every year. Our idea was to build a program on a schedule that goes through each process and subdomain annually. So we review, we test, we score, we attach evidence, we take notes, and then we document the next steps. We do that for all 159 subdomains every single year. Our main areas of focus are people and identity, devices, network, apps and data, physical security, and governance. So first we had to establish a baseline snapshot. Where were we at the start of all this in terms of documentation we had in place and schedule, reviews, things like that. We took the full month of January and we reviewed all 159 subdomains that we established, and we gave ourselves scores. The goal was to really establish that baseline snapshot of our posture and identity priority areas so we can prioritize areas for improvement. As well as put in consistent scheduling for system checks. The score 2.52, it didn't necessarily mean that we were insecure. What it really indicated is that many of our practices existed, but we didn't consistently document, measure, and have repeatable annual processes in place to make sure that they stayed updated. The rule that we made for ourselves was really just to be honest, not to chase a score. It would have been easy to give ourselves a higher score and mark it off and say done, but that's not really the intention of doing this. We decided that if we couldn't point to documentation, to evidence, repeatable process, then it wasn't going to count. How we interpret those is if we hit 3.5 to 4, it indicates maturity. 2.5 to 3.4 indicates that it's in progress. 1.5 to 2.4 really means it's developing and it needs strategic improvement and project planning. And then below 1.5 just needs improvement. It probably wasn't even on the radar. So slide. So in January, we created a focus plan. We didn't want to chase every single subdomain. 159 of them would risk making a little progress overall. So what we wanted to focus on is really high-impact items that we knew we could compete in the 6-month timeline, and really important work where we could close large areas of exposure. We broke into 2 teams. We have our tech ops and our data ops teams, and we made lists for each of those. And so on the tech ops, we decided to do a SIEM deployment, which is a security information and event management system, MFA, multi-factor authentication enforcement, endpoint encryption, secure configuration standards, physical security improvements across our network. And then the data ops group worked on onboarding and offboarding procedures, retention policies, vendor access reviews, technology policy modernization, and incident response exercises. Okay, so the technology department improved overall cybersecurity maturity by about 33% over that 6-month period, while simultaneously documenting and formalizing many previously informal processes that we had in place. Remember, we weren't chasing a score. These improvements came because we built better systems as a group, which is really exciting. We hit all the goals in our operational plan and are quickly moving towards our 1-year goal of having a 3.5 maturity in all areas. The biggest gains will be in networking, not because we'll be really far from it, but because we have big goals in building internal tools and that are going to make us a lot more secure and responsive. Networking is a little bit like turning the Titanic. The changes take time, but once you start turning the ship, momentum builds quickly. One thing I'm especially proud of is this isn't consultant work that's just sitting on the shelf. This is a program built by our team, operated by our team, and will continue to improve every 6 months moving forward. This drives a major portion of our weekly meetings now. The biggest improvement isn't actually the score. It's what cybersecurity has become more organized and repeatable part of how we operate. We have documented procedures, assigned ownership, regular reviews, and measurable progress. That's what makes the improvement sustainable. It also makes us really agile. So as technology changes, which is going to happen, we can change directions quickly with it. So in the last 6 months, what we really focused on was stronger protection against phishing accounts and compromises, better visibility into security events, more consistent onboarding, offboarding, improved physical security monitoring, better incident response readiness, more document and auditable processes, and reduced organizational risk. Our next 6-month focus, continue with the SIEM servers, security events reviews, network visibility, device inventory validation, configuration assurance program, physical infrastructure protections, data classification established, access governance formalized, vendor review process operational, technology request review process implemented, application ownership documented, governance process producing audit evidence, quarterly operational security metrics. It's a lot of words in a single list, but really what it means is we can never promise that an incident won't happen. There's just too many complex systems that are in place out there. What we can say is that we're consistently researching, patching, and testing. We're putting procedures in place and practicing them to mitigate results if they do happen. It's important to remember this work isn't happening in isolation. While building this program, our department continues to support over 8,000 network-connected devices, user support, network infrastructure, classroom technology, safety systems, websites, day-to-day operations that keep the district technology running. We'll have new plans in place every 6 months and yearly updates delivered to the board every summer. Cybersecurity isn't a destination, and it's not something that you finish. It's a continual process of measuring risk, improving our systems, and adapting as technology changes. This really gives us a structured way to do exactly just that. So, any questions?
That's why you do what you do. We're not there.
No, I'm glad to see that we're making improvements. I know that you guys are seriously focused on this stuff all the time. You're always working on projects and coming in under budget and on time. So really appreciate the attention to detail. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is our financial update with CFO Brian Wallace. Evening, Brian.
Good evening.
Chair Williams, members of the board, Dr. Meyer. I again here for the monthly finance report. It'll be pretty quick. It's format that we do every month. This shows, it's actually for the month of May. June, we do have some results, but we're still accruing salaries that get charged back to June. So really the June, when that gets last presented, will be in your audit report when we get back and talk about that in a little bit. But the May report, actually, we do get one of our state payments, so you can see on the revenue side that foundation program that we did get $2.7 million from the state, and actually a little bit $3 million from the state for various programs, mostly for our foundation program, state apportionment. Taxes and local dollars were minimal. That next big collection will really happen in July. I think it's credited back to this year. Salaries and benefits, again, on the expenditure side, drive our spending for the month. We did have a transfer, so you see that $550,000, and that was really transfers to the, we transfer some to a maintenance fund, and we also do a transfer to our bus depreciation fund. And the bus depreciation fund is by law. They give us revenues in the general fund, and we have to put it there for specifically to purchase buses. And so those transfers, and those matched what we had in budget. Year to date, we're tracking very close to similar years, so we're looking good. If we want to look at the first chart on revenues, you see that, I guess I'll put the spending side first. So spendings, where the green is getting close to the blue. Salaries and benefits will close out. We're going to be pretty close to budget. We'll be a little bit under in purchase services and a little bit over materials and supplies. The capital items are lower. Some of those variances are really because we recoded some things that we budgeted in capital items, but really charged to quote a material supply because they didn't get the capital threshold. So that's just a coding thing. It's not a budget thing. So we're transferring, we're tracking all the budget. For the month, this is just for the general fund. But again, our organization is driven by people in front of students, and so salaries and benefits sort of drive the budget at 90% for the month. And then you can see the other items sort of make up what we spent for the month. Revenues, you can see that on state apportionment, which is where we get for our money from attendance, and that we're very close to budget. We will get a payment in July. We should come pretty close to that number. That we're about $600,000 short right now, but that should be really close. Supplemental levy, those dollars will come in later this month when tax collections come, and should be right around that number. And then other state, again, those category funds should be close to that number. So it looks like, budget we actually should be pretty close, honestly. The other local that is higher is mostly, did get a few more grants than planned this year, and then interest has been better, we discussed. Finally, just enrollment. It's been pretty darn consistent all year. This is the last enrollment report for the year. We were down 10 from the previous year, so we sort of really maintained our enrollment and attendance all year. We did lose a little bit from the previous month, which is sort of typical. And finally, I mentioned that we have the audit. It's hard to believe, but it's actually already started. I think Dr. Meyer and I sent you some information to the auditors, but yeah, they sent us, I think it was about a week and a half ago, I got about 15 emails on things that they were asking. So it's full swing right now. They'll actually be here next week, doing some initial testing, some of our compliance parts of the audit, and then we're scheduled for more field work in September. Hope to have that report done on the 28th, and it'll be presented to you November 10th. And that's sort of the same timeline that we did last year. And that's all I had. If there's any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Any questions? You guys good? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have superintendent report with Dr. Becky Meyer.
Okay, so for July, last time for public comments, we had questions on House Bill 822. I put the actual House bill down below here. It's called Pediatric Transitions Parent Rights. And the patron that commented had 3 questions. So the board already asked at the next meeting I answer the questions publicly that they have, since we can't have back and forth at public board meetings. So the first one was, how are we educating staff of the new law and protocol? So we're gonna include in every staff handbook, and then the administration will go through training with us in August, make sure they understand the protocol, and then that they will train their staff at the beginning of the year staff meetings. So that's how we're gonna make sure everyone is on board. If any new members come, HR will make sure that they are familiar with that as well. We have a list that the staff acknowledges of all the policies annually that we must update them on, and this will go add on to that one. The second question was the entity, that's the word in the law that could be fined. It is the district, and in the law it actually says covered entity means a primary or secondary institution. So we would be fined if we violate. Just as a reminder, this fine is up to $100,000, which is the largest one in Idaho code, currently. So it's a pretty big deal. The third question was, would we provide a blanket parent consent form? And the answer is no. If you read the parent rights law, it really indicates the parent consent for individual circumstances and incidents. We feel like this really needs to be an individual thing, that parents don't give a blanket consent. Specifically, House Bill 822 says that you have to get with the parents within 72 hours. So this is different than some of the other parent right laws. The patron also turned in a minority report on House Bill 822, so I've uploaded that too, in case anybody wants to read that. There was also a trustee question at the board meeting about the number of SHS graduates after the presentation that Gerald Meyer did, high honors and honors. And so one of the board members asked about what were the last several years. Here's the number of graduates, high honors and honors numbers for you. And then I wanted to clarify that one of the trustees asked about lockers at SMS, and yes, that is happening on record, and it's part of the final, it was included in the final presentation, so that is all a yes going forward, and Principal Penrose is going to share that with his parents with an update on the construction project as well. All right, our theme for the year, Green Light to Shine, and just reminding everyone of our 4 buckets of our strategic plan and the students being at the center of everything we do. School safety and safe facilities. I have an update with Stop the Bleed. We typically do an update for you annually. I want to thank the local NRA group that we have in this area. They gave it 50 additional kits. So last March when I presented to you, we had like 139. We also had that other Panhandle grant. We're up to 259 kits in our district. So every single classroom has one. It's a pretty big lift, and I just want to thank the nurses. They wrote a grant, the NRA, PAVE, several people, Panhandle Health gave a grant as well. So we're really fortunate to have Stop the Bleed kits in every classroom in the district, so, and more. So thank you to all of those people supporting safety in their schools. Improving student connection and talking about CTE and elective opportunities. I typically show you updates of the facility, but Matt Deal, the facilities director, does his annual presentation at the next board meeting in August. We're not going to steal any of his thunder. Just reminding everyone that the grand opening is in September on the 15th. Alex Gray and Geraldine Meyer went and did a podcast. So I put all the information in here, building confidence one credential at a time, and you can link in to see the article or listen to the podcast that they did. And so that is in case anybody's interested in that. The loop, we had our May and our last June loop here. The public can link into there if they'd like that for community connection. And then just reminding folks that during the summer, we have several things going on. The ESY, extended school year, are the top couple pictures in the summer meal program. And thank you to the Daily Bee, and they've done articles on the summer program and the extended school year that are in the Daily Bee if anyone's interested in those. We had our chafe run, and Dr. McLaughlin had a group, Cody Spencer, Principal Bycandy had a group, myself and my husband at the Heron Station, and we covered 3 stations for the ride, and that happened on June 20th, Father's Day weekend. So I want to thank publicly all of the staff people and their spouses and families that helped on that full day event. Shelby, our community relations coordinator, was also at the beginning and the end so that writers could learn more about the Every Student Graduates Reader. So that was super helpful. Thank you to everybody that participated in that. Okay, student learning at the center of all we do. Reminding everyone, the board, the goals that we had, and Dr. McLaughlin updated you last month on meeting those goals this year. Congratulations. I know Principal Davis couldn't be here tonight, and neither could Phil, but congratulations to both of them. It's a lot of work, the accreditation process, and both of them passed, and both high schools are now fully accredited again for the cycle, and they had a lot of work to do to get to that spot. It was also Principal Davis's first year as a high school principal, first year at LPO, and it really was a lot of work, and so thank you to her and her staff for all the work they did for that to be accredited. All right, reminding people on the Lake Conroe High School, if you're new, there's several new folks here, and you have different ways of looking at what we've presented so far. This is a timeline of what we've presented to the board. So there's the superintendent reports are on the website, or you can also get all, these are videoed, and those are archived on there. So either way, that you could go back and look at this information if you weren't here in person. Tonight, we're gonna do a little bit of a recap of what was covered starting in March, and do a little bit of a recap with some updated numbers, knowing that this is gonna be in the recording and that several new folks probably are here tonight. So, I wanna reiterate, and I say it every time, every decision that we're making is really based on what we believe is best for students. I know not everyone agrees, and not everybody's perspective is exactly the same, but our job is to really recommend based on what's best for students in the Lake Conroe School District, and specifically in this case for Lake Conroe Alternative High School. This initial recommendation came off the fact for the LPOHS students to have expanded opportunities for electives and access to C-Tech and all the electives that they have at Sanford High School. And knowing that I was a principal there and working with alternative school students for several years, one of the most important things in my mind is that the students are able to be workforce ready. When they graduate, they have the skills and they have the workforce readiness to go into industry in our community. In my experience, the alternative school students and their families are really a huge part of the community, and they stay in this local community. So we want to make sure they're ready and they can have a successful career after they graduate from high school. I did have several people ask me, like, what other sites were considered, what other plans, what other things have you thought about? And without going through a long laundry list of pros and cons of different ideas that we thought through, one thing I think is really important, and you can see in the grant that I wrote for the C-Tech, and it's really based on the Idaho Career Readiness students, and that was a grant that was written, I had to write over several times. We didn't get it on the first try, we didn't get it on the second try, didn't get it on the third try, finally got it. I had to rewrite it several times and lower the amount. But in that actual, you can see that was submitted well before this conversation started. I wrote the grant initially, and I said this at a public meeting, for the C-Tech to go out here. So if you looked out there, there's 3.8 acres out there that the district owns with the trees out there. And I wrote the grant for C-Tech to be there, and in the plan, it says that the alternative school would be located up here and take over the district office. And my initial thought was, in the bay here, there's 2 bays outside this room, and there would be welding, and the automotive bays would be in here, and then the other programs would be in this building, so that the alternative school students would be directly next door to CTEC and able to access all of those every day, all day, whatever they wanted to participate in. The reason it came to my mind, number one, is I worked, like I said, at the alternative school for 5 years. I know the majority of students are hands-on, they like hands-on, they like a small environment, and they could be right in with learning these skills that would be applicable right when they graduate into our community. Also, I was on the board at KTEC, which is a CTEC down in Port Lane, and Rathbone Post Falls area. And the biggest thing is, right there, if you're on campus and you can get those skills and graduate right on that campus, I felt like that would be what would be best for the alternatives. So that was one idea. We had an advisory committee and I got outvoted. The advisory committee said this is too far away. You know, 9th graders often don't have their, and I guess even more so now, even upper kids aren't even getting their driver's license in cars nowadays. So this is too far away, and I got outvoted, and they said this is not a good spot, and that's why it moved to the south part of San Juan High School. But I just wanted the board to know, and the public to know, that I really did consider other things before this one, but my heart is really wanting to have the alternative school students have access to all the electives, and especially to CTECs. I feel like that will really help be prepared for life after graduation. The other questions, I've got a lot of questions from people like, why can't we just increase the enrollment and back up at the alternative school so that we can increase the staffing? And if the enrollment was higher, then the staffing could be increased again. I don't know if everyone knows this or not, but it is actually an Idaho code. You can't just sign up to go to the alternative school. You can't just decide you want the smaller environment or the family-friendly feel of the alternative school to go there. You actually must meet state criteria, and it's in Idaho code. You can see I put it up here. It's kind of hard to see, but it will be accessible. It's in 33-1001. You have to meet these criteria to be able to be eligible to go to the alternative school. So it's not, you can't just have anybody go to the alternative school.
Yeah, where we at? Where at the beginning?
Student enrollment trend, Dr. McLaughlin is going to go up here.
Thanks, Dr. Meyer. Thank you, board. Just to give an update on the student enrollment trend, you can see, and I know we've talked about this before, but just giving kind of a recap of it. You see since 21-22 school year, where we started the year at 86, ended the year 116, you can see those numbers as they progressively are going down currently. Right now, for the 2026-27 school year, we have 51 students who have currently registered in school. Our projection, and so when I built, you go to the next slide. When we built this, we projected on 56 students, just believing that even though we have currently 51 students, that we might, and we often do, get 5 more that come in before the school year begins. So I want to show you, this is based off the funding that we actually receive per enrollment, and enrollment is funded by the state for 2 things, right? It's enrollment multiplied by average daily attendance. And so I really want to bring you to the, I guess it's the 5th, where it says, the 5th column where it says building staff generated 26-27. What that shows is the actual amount that Lake Pend High School, based on enrollment multiplied by average daily attendance, what we will receive in state funding from the state to actually staff LPOHS. What that number is 4.12 currently, and that's for teachers. Our actual staff that we have is 6, okay? What that shows then is the difference of negative 1.88 that the state is not funding. Again, that falls onto us and our taxpayers. And that percentage of difference is 45.53%, okay, over what the state will give us. And you can look then, the next one, some people have asked, and I've done this question a couple times, is why can't we just keep the staffing that we currently had last year and roll it forward? If you look at that, the actual staff, if we kept the current staff, which from last school year, at 8, the difference would be 3.88 at that point in staff. and then that's a percentage of 94.03% over what the state will give us. The following line right there, if you look at it again, right, is actual staff in 24-25 was 10, and then that would put us over 5.88 staff members, if that's what we chose to do this year, which would bring us to 142.54% over what the state would give us in revenue. Now, some of the questions that we've gotten is, how does that then compare with our other district high schools? And if you look at Sandpoint High School, the building staff generates 60.39 FTE, full-time equivalent teachers. And the actual staff that we have there is 65.2. So we are over, and the difference is negative 4.81, and that percentage is right about 8%. Okay, quite a bit lower, and that's always something that we look at and say, okay, what do we do if somebody retires? Do we need to rehire that position? Clark Fork, similar, where Clark Fork generates 9.65, and the actual staff, we have 10.2, and you can see the percent there is 5.67. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? We talked about that before. We don't see this as a bad thing that enrollment is going down in an alternative school. What we look at is all the factors that are potentially making that happen. For example, Sandpoint High School's enrollment is actually trending up. Okay, the failing grades at Sandpoint High School have been trending down. So for example, in the year 22-23 school year, we had 448 students, Fs overall. Some students had multiple Fs, overall in semester one. This past school year, that number has been down and trending down every year to 146 Fs overall. What is this? Why is this? And we always ask that question. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? So one of the things that Sandpoint High School is doing very well is creating systems that identify and reach every student. And a lot of those systems are based on what does that particular student need, whether it's academically or social, emotional, whatever it might be. What does that student need? So you can see some of the different things, and I know Flex Friday was a point of topic, right? And that Flex Friday was based off of some other school districts who had vetted this and had been using it since 2020, 2021 school year. There's an Idaho News article. They do it on Mondays in the other district. We've chosen to do that on Fridays because it works for our system. But that's a way also, again, targeting and helping at-risk students. And you can see that in those numbers. And so you see that with the failing student numbers, is that students are more motivated to get their grades in so that they can have that opportunity. Also, you can look at, there's electives with CTEC, we have the One Trusted Adult Initiative, and TSS. So there's several different reasons. Again, right, LPOHS students currently have the opportunity this next year to take classes at CTEC and at SHS. The electives, and we have 35 out of 51 students currently signed up for those electives, which is very exciting. Okay, that's quite a bit. Students are currently traveling back and forth, and there's a reason why we talk about how that is not necessarily sustainable for the long term. It's because of loss of instruction, but I think there's a little bit deeper reason that the board needs to understand, is that Sandpoint High School is on a 6-period school day, right? 6 periods. That means for one semester they can earn up to 6 credits. An entire year, they can earn 12 credits. Lake Monterey High School is on what we call a semester or quarter block system. So for every quarter, they have 4 classes. And students, those classes are longer, so students can earn 4 semester classes in 9 weeks, which is half the time that students at Sandpoint High School can earn 6 credits. So what happens over the course of a year, Sandpoint High School students can earn 12 credits, LPOHS students can earn 16. And so students who are credit deficient and are choosing to go to LPOHS because of credit deficiency, that creates, if we are busing them back and forth, it creates a loss of instructional time, which really impacts that schedule. So that is a huge factor to consider, and why, a big reason why it would not be sustainable in the future. We're making it work with the students that we have right now who are not in that credit deficient area, but for the long term, and to see that carry forward for the future would be very difficult. All right, CFO Wallace.
And so some of the information in this slide was a slide I think that I showed previously. Some of the information has been made up, but I'm going to just focus on the top part. But it's really pretty simple. As I, in the budget hearing, and we show all the enrollment report every day, the reason I do that is because attendance and enrollment drives the majority of our funding from the state. And so what this really just shows is that if you have more students, you get more dollars from the state. If you have less students, you generate less dollars. And so in actual real dollar numbers for moving forward for next year, if we wanted to compare where we were this year with 78 students at LPO, generated almost $900,000 in funding. We're looking at 51 enrolled students right now for this year. And when Dr. McLaughlin said it'd go to 56, and it could, I just used 51 because that's what we know now. That would generate, if they attended at the same time, roughly $580,000 in funding, so you're missing out on $300,000 roughly of funding, which is actually, when we're doing the numbers, the way we looked at it looked pretty good, because remember, we get funded by units, think of the unit of the classroom. And if you look at that drop of 78 to 51, 29 kids, that is going to be probably about 2 units of funding, and a unit we get about $150,000. A little more this year. That depends on some other factors, but that, it's a pretty simple concept. If a building or a program has more kids, they generate more revenue. And whenever you have a program or a building that is having a reduction in attendance and enrollment, that always drives a conversation on how can we best meet this need with reduced funding. Also, I know that there was, as part of the paperwork filed, the grievance, that there was questions about our audits and some of the practices that we do for record keeping. Just want to know that, one, we get audited every year by an independent auditor. We actually get beyond that because we also have federal audits and program reviews that happen at the state level, but every year we're audited. Last year we had an audit, clean audit, no findings. The previous year we did 2, and I didn't go far back with Ms. Halls, but we've had a good practice in this district of having clean audits. The audit isn't just on our financial statements, which is a big part of it, because you do have to state whether you're truly state your financial condition at that time. But they also are directed by the state to do compliance testing. So we're, with laws, regulations, contracts, ground agreements, they look at all that to make sure that we're following the laws and practices required to. Every year they do audit attendance reporting. There's a state attendance manual, they audit to that. Those standards we give our whole attendance file out of Power School, which is taken every day. It's a huge Excel file. They take that, do their testing. So that's just part of the standard practice, just so you know that audit's just not finance, but we get, we have a compliance audit, and in order to get that clear audit, we have to be following good practices and procedures to make sure that we have those processes in place to make sure that we're doing what's asked of us.
And I know that we've even, our auditors have even called out, we are more transparent than we even have to be legally. We separate all of our funds out, our levy dollars, and all that stuff. Like, we've gotten a clean bill of health every single year. So,
Yeah, but this district has had a very good history of good business practices.
There have been some questions about the facilities. I do want to say, starting in the district in 1993, the facilities, we do have old buildings, we do have what we talked about, deferred maintenance. For those that are old timers and have been around for a long time, we did have to Band-Aid a lot over the years. I do want to give a thanks to House Bill 521 and 292, because those dedicated facility funds, when the state bonded those funds, has helped our district immensely. And we have a 10-year facility plan that's board approved by the state, and it's accessible on our website. It's also linked into the superintendent report. And it really goes through what the highest priority needs, as the public probably saw. The Sandpoint Middle School is right in the middle of it. It's the first one in Northside Elementary. some HVAC in Washington, LPOHS, there's things on there right in the order that the facility group has prioritized it with the long-range facility planning, it was presented to the board, and then adopted. So, I do want to say, on the grievance that was filed, I'm personally disappointed with the false allegations. I've said it in public here. I don't have social media, but our community relations person and some people follow social media and then ask me, hey, this was asked, what's the answer to that? There's been several false allegations. Also in the grievance that was submitted, it really, it makes me very sad that our district, we had a lot of trust built up in the district, we're doing a lot of great things in the district, and because people don't like the recommendation, they're just made a lot of false accusations, which, I'm not gonna go on social media and go against everything that people have said, but we've already been proven that some of these things already that have been submitted, we've already been cleared on the open meeting violation law and several other things that were put into the grievance. So I just want the board, I want to go on record just to say that I am disappointed. I want to say in the grievance, I'm going to give you one example. There was something about a luxury executive boardroom. All the public documents are here. It was alleged that we used ESSER dollars, which were COVID dollars, which was not true. It was alleged that this is a luxury boardroom. I mean, this is not luxury. I don't know if people have been to other boardrooms throughout, but this was very fiscally conservative. We also are not paying an external person. The boardrooms, we are paying a fee to have the board meetings off-site. We are not disrupting any schools anymore in the educational process. Trainings can be held here. Trainings have been here consistently. Staff trainings have been held here. Also, it's not ADA, not average daily attendance, but Americans with Disability Act. It's not compliant for us to have them upstairs. So we really want to be obviously legally ADA compliant. And there was alleged that we did this in a consent agenda and that the board didn't vote on it and that it was hidden in a consent agenda. And that's just not accurate. I know I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I've done everything right, but this is just one example. And I know several people don't agree with my recommendation, but that is my job to recommend to the board what I believe is best for students. Not everybody has to agree with me, but the board documents there are linked there if people want to see that. I truly believe that this is in my recommendation, which will be on the next slide, is that it's what's best for students and best for long-term for our students and our at-risk students to be prepared to give back and be prepared to live into our community. By the narrative that the students cannot learn in another setting is false. In my opinion, students can learn anywhere. There are plenty of schools. 8 out of 11 of our schools have portables. There are plenty of reasons that the alternative school students being closer to elective opportunities and specifically to CTEC, I think in the long run are going to prepare our students. I don't want to limit what the alternative school students in the future, their resilience and the capacity for them to learn at a different location. I think by telling that if we can't have it at that current location, they can't learn, I think that's not fair to the students. I think that they deserve more. But I do want to apologize to the board. I literally did not, and apologize to the community. I had no idea that this was going to be such a hot button topic. I did not know such heartburn was going to come up. I could have done a better job of preparing and giving information ahead of time of what my thinking was. This is like a daily operation that superintendents do to prepare and set vision for the future, as you know, with the strategic plan. And again, it was in that first grant that I wrote, which I've been, keeping the board apprised of. But I do apologize if this has turned into a huge hot button topic. I know it's emotional for people, and I do understand that. I'm not saying my idea is right. I'm not attached to the outcome, I don't personally get anything from this. If the board chooses to do something else, it's perfectly fine. I know that you have a bigger picture. My job is to do what's best for the students and recommend what's best for students. And I know you as elected officials have a bigger swath that you have to think of your constituents as well, and the bigger community. So I understand that. Personally, I'm happy to be alive. I mean, a few months ago, I could have not been here. So I'm really happy to be alive, and I am not going to be attached to whatever the outcome of tonight's decision is. My recommendation is to relocate to the new location beginning fall of 2027. I truly believe in my heart that it's best for students, long-term, and it's fiscally responsible for all the taxpayers. I think that's the best thing to do. In all transparency, there obviously are other options. We could maintain the current location at the Boyer site, and it would just really need to operate, and Dr. McLaughlin kind of alluded to this, in a more of an isolated small school model. Similar to how Clark Fork is running, they have a lot of independent study electives, a lot of online electives, totally doable. It doesn't give as many expanded opportunities for kids, but it's definitely doable to stay in the current location and have that be the model. Throughout the entire state, there's a lot of small school districts that operate that way, and it can work. You could incorporate the 51 students that are currently registered. They could be incorporated into other high schools or the online school, and that's another option. I personally don't think either of the bottom two are what's best for students, but again, that's something for the board to think about, and there is really three options that I can see. So with that, we stand if anyone has questions for any of us before we end.
Yeah, I have one, Dr. Meyer. On the, I mean, we all know what the three options are, and at the top of this, it's student involvement, student opportunity, fiscal responsibility for all taxpayers.
Can you speak up, please? We can't hear you.
How's that? Can you guys hear these?
No.
It's not. Call technology.
Matt? Here, I'll just try to speak up. So, the options, obviously we want more opportunity for students, we want the best possible outcome for all of our students, and we want the best possible outcome for all of our taxpayers. I have a question, as I've said before, we value this program. We do not want this program to go away. We also have to look at all of the data, and an important question, and a question that I know I've gotten from constituents is, okay, what is the cost of the program? What happens if the program goes away for those 51 students? It's not required by law for us to have an alternative high school. What is that number? If we were to incorporate the students into another, either if they go online or they decide to stay at SHS, Brian, can you speak to what the savings of, and this is not what I'm recommending, but it's a question I have curiosity and so do constituents, what is the cost of this program?
I haven't run those numbers, but when I've had to do it previous district, when I was at Coeur d'Alene, I had to run if they closed an elementary school at Hayden, and what was the operational cost. And the true cost you get when you close a building, you get some from utilities and things like that, but really not a whole lot. True costs are those students that are being moved to the other buildings are able to be served by existing staff, and so you're able to reduce your staffing costs through attrition or other things. So if you look at LPO, eventually, let's say in a couple of years, the staff were incorporated into other programs, and through attrition you got to where those positions were no longer there. Depending where teachers were landing on the salary schedule, things like that, it would be probably $600,000 to $800,000 every year would be the savings of serving those 55 kids. Let's say you could do it for quite a bit less. And so I used to tell an example just to give you a perspective, because Dr. Meyer and I worked at Lakeland, and people will say, why don't you run the school district like a business? Well, Lakeland has Timberlake High School and Lakeland High School. Timberlake has about 550 kids, Lakeland has about 850 kids. That community made the decision to split into two smaller schools, really to serve the Spirit Lake community. It was a good decision for that program. If we would have just had one high school of 1,300 kids or 1,400 kids, about the same size as Coeur d'Alene High School, a little smaller than Post Falls High School, we absolutely could run those 1,400 kids and probably save $1.5–2 million a year. I don't need another athletic director. I don't, it's just all those things. I don't need another custodian. You get,
Scalable, yeah.
it's become scalable. There is a sort of a sweet spot when you just look at pure finances of like the perfect size of a school. So
Okay.
that's the savings would become because we could have those kids not really have to adding staff at Sandpoint High School eventually or wherever they happen to go an online program and ongoing save those staffing costs as attrition happens.
I think it's important to just have that discussion. You can make the same argument about every single program in all of our schools. Like, oh, we want to save money? Let's get rid of this. Oh, we want to, you can make that argument everywhere. I am not trying to make that argument that this is boiled down to dollars and cents. It's just important to understand of all the options, there's serious fiscal implications that come from this, and we get those questions.
And the state of Idaho recognizes that in our funding formula right now. Small schools are funded at a higher level
Right.
than large schools. There's a rural small school factor in the funding formula to try to address that, because small schools are more expensive to run per student. It's just the nature of the way the costs happen.
Right.
What about this is looking farther into the future, I know, but we're dropping potentially 27 kids this year. What about as we go into 27, 28? It's like, are you gonna see a trend to keep dropping? Are we gonna be, from right now, are we gonna be 40 kids less from now instead of 27?
The junior classes, I think we have a larger junior class and then 2 classes of 15. So the juniors to be seniors, I believe, are around 20, and I don't quote me on that exact number, but they're around 20, and then the other 2 classes are 15 each, and then of course incoming freshmen, we'll see how many we have. So typically what happens is you can see that, and a couple months ago, I had also created a report that gave you kind of a beginning starting, a middle of the year, and then end of the year, and you do see some trending up, especially in the middle of the year. Historically, what happens is that typically by the end of the year, trends a little bit back down. That didn't happen this year, so this year, big trend, they started at 67, ended at 78, and you saw that trend really come up in the middle of the year and then keep going. So we do know, to answer your question, Trustee Wood, we do know that we will see some trending, especially as students go through the school year, right, and begin at Sandpoint High School. Some of those students who do struggle, okay, and do fit that model, will move over, and so you will see some increase there. So,
Yeah, but
Will
it's
it
impossible,
traditionally-
it's impossible to predict, but school year 27, 28.
Right. So if we lose 21 more students,
Yeah.
right, and we fill it with classes of 15, you can see that we would consistently be moving lower into the 40s, yes.
And again, we don't have a crystal ball, but Dr. McLaughlin talked about his son, and we both truly believe if the site was at the new location and it was built up and it was made comfortable and it was made in looking nice and welcoming and students like to be there, we believe that the population will go up because students will be able to access the electives, specifically C-Tech and hands-on electives to be workforce ready when they graduate. Dr. McLaughlin, back in March, I think it was, talked about his son, really wanted to go to the alternative school, but wasn't able to take welding, to continue with his welding, so he chose not to go there. We think there are other students that happens to as well. So, again, I don't have a crystal ball. I may be completely wrong, but that is just what we believe probably could be to your question about enrollment.
I have a question.
No, we don't take questions from the audience. All right, does anybody have any more questions for these guys?
Yeah, just as a reminder, because it might be some people's first board meeting, that nobody's trying to be rude. It is it's a board meeting held in public, and then there's a public comment section, but the board is not allowed to interact with people throughout the board meeting. We're presenting, when students come and we present to the school board, it's their board meeting, it's just held in public, so we're not trying to be.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be rude, it's just the way that the meetings work and the law works.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next up on the agenda, we have public comment. And the Board of Trustees welcomes patron comments from the community. The comments are limited to 3 minutes per person and must be appropriate for an open forum. Input must not identify individual personnel or students or be abusive, defamatory, or obscene. The total time allotted for public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. This is a board meeting held in public, not a public board meeting as governed by Idaho Code 33, Section 5. Thus, no discussions or responses can occur during the meeting. Issues may be referred to the proper staff person or committee for the follow-up per the board's discretion. Any complaint about the district, including instruction, discipline, district personnel policy, procedure, or curriculum should be referred through proper administrative channels before it is presented to the board for consideration. Should a large number of the public wish to speak on the same issue or topic, you are encouraged to select one representative to summarize the group's position. I don't think that's going to be the case tonight. I do want to thank you all for coming. I do thank you for input. This is important for us to have dialogue on these things. And as I said, I don't mean to bark out orders. I've been pretty lenient. Let's try to keep the side conversations low. Everybody is up here stepping up to a podium. Let's give everybody the respect that they deserve, which is no different than the respect that all of us deserve up here and that everybody's been presenting thus far. So moving forward. And we do have this timer and clock up here that will count down. And at a minute.
At 1 minute, it turns red.
Yeah, so at 1 minute it turns red. And it'll beep, you can hear it when your time's up, So please try to stay within that 3 minutes allotted time. The first person that we have up is Jackie Brandt. All right.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Jackie Branham. I'm a retired school superintendent with over 25 years of administrative experience. This includes 17 years as a superintendent and as a state-level appointed distinguished educator. I have handed the clerk our agenda defect memorandum, master statutory grievance, and grievance addendum. This includes our statutory appendix tracking every code violation committed by this administration. I ask that these documents be entered into tonight's permanent minutes. We thank the administration for placing this relocation on tonight's agenda. Correcting past use of bulk agenda, consent agendas is an important first step. Look at item 7A on the agenda. The administration has introduced resolution 27-00. By introducing a formal resolution tonight, the administration has procedurally conceded that no valid board authorization existed over the last 36 months. This retroactive item confirms our audit. Major structural changes were illegally restricted to background attachments. Tonight's motion is a late attempt to patch a severe procedural defect. Your attorney likely told you that structuring tonight's vote as a recommendation protects you. He forgot your own rule book. Under policy 9200, a major real estate consolidation cannot be packaged inside an employee's report block. A resolution is a standalone binding law. It requires its own distinct legislative process. Tonight's agenda shortcut simply documents your legal vulnerability on the record. Under Idaho Code 74204, Part 4, decisions must be explicitly itemized. Under Idaho Code 33511, Permanently moving an autonomous program like LPOHS is a facility discontinuance. This board cannot vote on this move without first holding a dedicated, recorded, statutory public hearing. The administration claims the school continues, yet they have already hollowed this program out. Only 4 teachers remain to teach core subjects. Forcing 4 remaining teachers in the trailers behind the middle school is not a routine relocation. It is the final physical phase of a total school shutdown. Idaho Code Section 74201 reminds us that public servants do not decide what is good for the public to know. Under Idaho Code Section 74208, any trustee who participates in a non-compliant meeting faces personal civil penalties.
Jackie? All right, Jackie. Next up, we have Sarah Burrow.
Good evening, my name is Sarah Burrow, and I am here to challenge the narrative that the alternative students are being saved from a logistical burden. The superintendent claims that relocating these students to middle school portables expands their options. She points to current busing schedules as a problem, but our community deserves to look at how the exact problem was created. The civil prosecutor recently noted that transferring personnel falls within the superintendent's administrative authority. We do not dispute her authority. We are here to expose how she used it as a tool of engineered attrition. Last year, when our art teacher retired, the administration permanently eliminated the LPOHS art elective rather than hire a replacement. This year, after the superintendent told our culinary arts teacher that the district could no longer financially support his program, he made the decision to retire, and his program was dissolved without a board vote. By utilizing that exact same transfer loop, she quietly reassigned our physical education teacher to another school, killing PE elective. By removing art tracks, defunding culinary space, cutting physical education, and transferring our secondary counselor, the central office systematically hollowed out the school. Only 4 teachers remain to teach core subject. They used routine administrative reassignments to execute an unvoted programmatic foreclosure on vulnerable students. Our students did not choose to be bused across town. The administration made them get on those buses by starting their historic campus of resources. Let us be entirely clear about these registration numbers. Our kids are not excited to sign up for the electives. At the main high school, they are required to do so. They have no choice. If they want an art, PE, or culinary credit to graduate, they must get on a bus or take a class alone online. The administration engineered a drop in campus utility. They forced our kids out of their own building to get basic credits. This is compliance under pressure, not voluntary student preferences. This is an administrative foreclosure, and we urge this board to vote no. Thank you.
Next, we have Terry Pardini.
Hi, I'm Terry Pardini. I've been up here before, but thank you for allowing me to speak again. The alternative education is not an extravagance. It's a vital and separate life raft for students who, for a variety of reasons, personal, a whole variety, they do not thrive in the traditional high stimulus mainstream high school environment. The proposal for you tonight seeks to put these vulnerable high school students into portable trailers directly behind an active middle school, forcing them to commingle with regular education populations just to receive basic elective tracks. When you strip these students of a standalone, autonomous campus, you strip away the psychological safety that allows them to stay in school. Shifting them to portables behind a younger grade level sends a clear, demoralizing message about how this district values the alternative path. If a student wanted to attend a large school, mainstream environment, they would already be at Sandpoint High School right now. So they choose LPO because it was a separate dedicated sanctuary. Forcing them into this consolidated space will not increase participation. It will drive many of our most vulnerable kids out of the education system entirely. Additionally, I understand the review of the district's own 1,000 and 6,000 policy series indicates that the administration exceeded its administrative boundaries by planning this physical shift before a formal board resolution was ever passed. The administration has publicly stated that a lack of local capital funding prevents them from repairing the historical alternative high school campus to meet basic safety and ADA elevator compliance. Yet, they did prioritize local general fund taxes to build this ADA compliant boardroom. This was prioritized over a basic wheelchair lift for alternative students who are physically unable to walk up the stairs of their own school. It's kind of a glaring and moral double standard, don't you think? I ask you now, please do not vote to protect administrative comforts over student safety. Please remember your core vision, every student, every day. Please vote no. And I do have one question in my 19 seconds. If they go to the high school campus, do they not then still get their block schedule and 16 credits a year? That's it, thanks.
Next we have Janice Rader.
Good evening. My name is Janice Rader. I've been a resident of Bonner County since 1989. I have raised 4 children in Bonner County, 3 of which attended LPO High School. 2 of them graduated from the high school. This administration claims that consolidating the LPO High School at the middle school campus expands student options. However, our financial audit reveals a different reality. This move creates an immediate destructive liability for our local taxpayers. The official district timeline establishes a critical fact. Alternative high schoolers will not physically occupy the middle school site until the fall of 2027. I believe that's when the construction is supposed to stop. I've never seen construction actually reach their deadline on time, so that would be interesting. This is because middle school students must use those portables during current campus renovations. The money for this renovation comes from state school modernization funds under House Bill 521. Under state law, these funds are strictly project specific. They must match the explicit middle school application the district submitted to secure them. By voting to pass Resolution 27-00 tonight, this board is officially authorizing a direct diversion of state funding. You are spending state middle school modernization dollars to install permanent infrastructure for a future high school footprint. Diverting state facility money to prep an unvoted high school relocation is an unauthorized allocation of state funds. We request an immediate review by state CFO Gideon Tolman. Furthermore, by locking in this physical move for 2027, the board is committing our taxpayers to a future violation of state ID APA rules regarding separate site mandates. The moment our alternative students are forced onto that middle school campus, it triggers an automatic state reclassification under Idaho Code Section 33-1002. LPO High School drops to an in-district program status. This plunges our funding divisor from the 12.0 down to 18.5. This reclassification will cause an inescapable net loss of over $314,770,000 to our district's general fund over the next 3 years. Worse, our public records request delivered this week reveals a total absence of formal written protection. The district clerk formally admitted on paper that there is currently 0 official written correspondence between LPOSD 84 and the Idaho State Department of Education regarding this relocation. Let us be entirely clear to this board. A casual phone conversation or a verbal assurance carries 0 legal weight in a state school financial audit. If this administration is relying on undocumented verbal handshakes to protect our alternative funding lines, They are being completely reckless. State finance laws require written, binding regulatory determinations. Asking this board to vote tonight without a single piece of official paperwork confirming our funding is safe.
You're done, Janice. Time's up.
So we ask
Thank
you to please table the vote tonight, please. Thank you.
Next up, we have Heather Lohman.
Thank you. As a parent with 4 kids who have either gone through or are currently going through Lake Connery School District, I occasionally attend the school board meetings. But starting in February, I tried to attend more regularly because I too had questions such as why the changes to LPO, why the departure from the current building, why the choice to new location, etc. So I attended these meetings and I found that my questions were answered. I appreciate the thorough and transparent way you have explained the decision-making process, particularly with Dr. Meyer, Dr. McLaughlin, and Mr. Williams. Wallace, sorry, I started with that right. So I appreciate the thorough and transparent way you've explained the decision-making process. Thank you for sharing the research, the data, and the stats. I know that this is not an easy decision, but I am thankful that you and the board have looked at it from a variety of angles, not just the financial angle, but also what's best for the students, for the families, and for the sustainability of the LPO program. One thing I have learned in these last few months is how much the students of LPO are loved and cared for by this community. Both sides of the discussion are trying to do what's best for the students. They just have differing ways of viewing how to do that. So I hope the LPO students take away from this whole situation that they are valued and that their community desires to support them. I also want to stress that although there is a vocal contingent here tonight, but also that have consistently expressed their opinions on social media, I stand here to say that there is another contingent who quietly supports and appreciates all the work you've put into this, all the time you've put into this decision, and your handling of this important and sensitive issue. And so today, instead of sitting down like I typically do and just sit at the seats and listen, today instead, I am standing to express my support and appreciation.
Next up, we have Karen Wallace.
Hi, I'm Karen Wallace. I'm a taxpayer in the community. I'm a parent of a couple of kids that have gone through the school district. One being a high-functioning special needs kid that went through Sandpoint High, would have been eligible to go to LPO, but took advantage of special needs programs through the high school. So I kind of take a little bit of exception to some comments that were made about kids, feeling not super safe being over by the high school, the middle school. We've dealt with that. I'm also a 21-year employee of the school district. So I'd like to just say, I'm a school bus driver. I support you. I support the board's decision, and I hope you'll continue to go in that direction. I say that as a taxpayer. I see the costs, I see what you're doing, and it makes sense. I like that as a taxpayer. I think you have the students' best interest in mind. I think this district is special. You could just say, forget it. I mean, you kind of alluded to what would it cost if we got rid of the whole program. You could do that. You don't have to keep it. I think it's a worthwhile program. I support the kids. I support the idea of it. I like the fact that you're working hard to put everybody in a place where they will succeed. And I hope you do continue to move over to the middle school area and give them that opportunity. I also want to say, as the last speaker said, I've talked to a lot of people in the area who aren't here tonight, that feel as I do as a taxpayer. They just want to see, you know, a lot of these people, and I did talk to people that are in support of keeping it there, but it's all about a building. It's a building. It's what we're gonna do when we move over and how you're gonna run it that's important, and you guys are putting a lot of thought into this. You're not taking the program away. That is important, and it says a lot about the ideas that you have and the way, the path forward that you're taking. I also want to say as a little side note that as a bus driver, they talk about kids not interacting well with the other kids. I bus these kids all together for 21 years. I've never had a problem. The kids all integrate very well together. They get along just fine, and they have a good time. I've never had an issue, never, not once in 21 years. So I just want to say I support you, and I thank you for all you're doing, and that's it. Thank you.
Next up, we have Rand Rosecrans.
Where's that clock at? Okay. We're gonna start it till I say thank you to all the board. Okay, let's get going. I was driving on the road this morning. There was an elderly gentleman in front of me, and he stopped to pick up a big old piece of trash there in the road. Put his blinkers on and pulled over. I thought to myself, I'm glad I live in the kind of town where people will do something like that. Little things. We came here 10 years ago, and it's still kind of this way often. People are polite, they're decent, they're kind to one another. You said something, Dr. Myers, that I think was very telling. Didn't realize this would be such a hot button. I don't think any of us did. And what we've done is we've chosen up sides. I can see it when somebody comes up here and supports these people that are getting the high salaries and the good retirement benefits and everything. And you guys don't even take mileage for your driving. I found that out today. I did a little checking, okay? So thank you for your service. I have people that are angry at me for thanking the school board for their service. That's weird. You know what that is? That's us becoming like the rest of the world. That's the hatred and the vitriol we see out there when people choose up sides on something and bang, we're going to choose sides, this is going to be this way, and we're going to demand this, we're going to have it this way. No, I understand budgets. I had to run one for 20 years. So those things are real. I believe that you're doing what you think is best for this community. I also believe that we're at a place as a community that we can come together a little bit more. We can speak to each other a little bit more. We can back up. I'm going to apologize now for all the people I'm about to offend, and I'm not pointing at anybody in particular. I find some of the things I've seen on social media, and I try to avoid it as much as I can too, but family and pictures and all that, grandkids and all that garbage. I find some of the things I've seen to be patently absurd. I think it's ridiculous, some of the accusations that have been made towards people who are trying to do their jobs and do a good job and serve our kids. I also believe I've stood in opposition to closing the school, so I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. I'm going to say that very clearly. But I'm not going to make demands. I'm going to say, maybe we need to talk about this a little bit more. Maybe we need to not do what a lot of other people and places in the world are doing and stand up and start fighting with each other and get to a point to where we're making accusations. I reminded some of my students. I told them for 10 years not to put me on Facebook, and all it took was one time. Thank you very much, Riley. But the point being, what I'm trying to say is that what's real is this community and what we have here. We're not required by law to have an alternative school. But isn't it beautiful that we do? And that we're trying our best? And so maybe we all need to just back up and take a breather. I would recommend a tabling too. I start hearing about we're going to lawyer up and this and that, and okay, my time's up. But thank you for listening.
Once again, I just want to thank everybody for stepping up and talking and engaging throughout this process. There's a lot of ins and outs. There's been a lot of misinformation, false information, and I think it's important to put in the work, like everybody here is doing, to do the research and listen. believe everything that you hear, especially if it's online. Moving forward, next up, we have the consent agenda, and I will entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
I need to recuse myself from the consent agenda. My company did a little work at Northside School recently, so.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye.
I abstain.
Okay. That motion passes with the abstaining from trustee Wood. Thank you. Next up, we have the board action items, resolution 27-00, relocation of Lake Pondere High School. I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 27-00, relocate Lake Pondere Alternative High School as presented.
Second.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to, we have the motion on the table. Is there any further comment or discussion by members of the board?
I feel like that we're just losing money every year by keeping it open. I do feel that it is it's a compromise to move them just to save the district money. I don't feel that closing the school is an option at all. That's not a very good decision whatsoever. So I just think it's more fiscally responsible to do such that.
Okay. One of the things that we've talked about, and I know I've spoken about this many times, we are looking at the student at the center of every discussion and decision that we make, and trying to impact most students that we possibly can every day in the most positive way. We are a lucky school district. We have a lot to offer. We have a lot of opportunities, and expanding those opportunities for our students is huge. I think that, I could take a step back from this and go and I look at who's signed up for electives. We have a CNA program, right, that people are signed up for. It's not a class that you could go and take online in an online elective and expect to get hired leaving school. It is important that we have these hands-on training opportunities for our students and expand the breadth of opportunity that they get. It's important to be able to, if you're into welding, to be able to have access to welding, art, music, all of these programs, and that is what these decisions are for. That's why I feel so strongly about it, is that I think it's hugely important that we expand the opportunity for all of our students. There's been a lot of false information out there. A grievance that immediately we go through with our attorneys, and it's full of false information, and accusations that are just patently false and come from I don't even know where. There's accusations of board getting paid. There's accusations of personal enrichment, all sorts of things that are just wrong. We sit up here as elected officials from our constituents trying to do the best that we possibly can for everybody that we represent. And we're talking about, oh my gosh, there's 4 or 5 teachers, there's 50 students. That is incredible. It is incredible that we have this program. Nobody wants to get rid of this program. We have talked about that over and over and over again. And yes, I alluded to it because it's a question that we get. What would it cost to get rid of this program? You don't need it. So those are important questions that we have to answer. And like I also said, we have a budget that's full of a lot of stuff that if you want to get rid of it, that budget will go down. So I'm not trying to break this down into dollars and cents for every little thing. Because like I said, you can make those savings across the board with any program. That's not what we're trying to do. This is a very, very important program. We're trying to get better. We're trying to get to a point where we have students with great opportunity for the electives that they need. Maybe they don't learn well in a standard high school environment. So this is a hybrid model to try to get the best for everybody. And that's my position on it. Any other statements or any other questions or discussions?
I have some comments. So, being born and raised here for a number of years, I know a lot of you people in the community. Some of you guys I had as my students. You know, I see a lot of people every day, and a lot of them are taxpayers, and they've moved in. Some are new, and they basically want to know what's going on because all they're doing is reading things. A lot of them don't have Facebook and stuff. In fact, I got off Facebook last week because it's just ridiculous. And I miss that because I like to see pictures of my family and things, but I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of stuff for that. One thing they say is, you know, do we really need this school? And are my tax dollars being spent to finance this? And if it's not there, what am I saving? I don't care if it's 25 cents or 25,000, what am I saving? What am I getting for my buck? And I said, well, you're getting at-risk kids that have a chance to graduate, that are behind in their, whether it be their graduation rate or whatever, and being part of our community, you know, the minute they graduate. Like getting a CDL and going to work, you know, immediately upon, you know, getting their diploma, they're working on the next day. I think this is so important. I know people in the automotive industry that are saying, boy, I can't wait till these kids learn how to change a tire and they can come work for me, because we're short-handed. I can't wait till I can hire more people to bust tables and to, you know, cook our food, because everybody that knows and tries eating out in Sandpoint knows we don't have enough chefs. And we went through a time when Monday and Wednesdays, most of the restaurants were closed because everybody was sharing things. These kids, I had an opportunity this year to have the welding class do some stuff for on a trailer that I bought. I said, hey, you want a project? And I paid for it. They charged me. They did an amazing job. And it was like, I couldn't have done it for myself. I wish I knew how to weld. And I watched how these kids walked around and how Jake took these kids and did this. And it's like, you know, they're learning a skill. We have a lot of welding opportunities. There's welding shops all over. A couple of them for former students. And they learned how to weld, and now they're being, you know, they're paying people and they're paying taxes, and they're doing very, very well. I don't know what to tell people when they say to me, do we really need the program? They didn't have it when I was in school, and I'm tired of taxes. I don't want to pay taxes anymore. So I don't care if it's 25 cents, 25,000, or 350,000. I don't want to pay for it. Those people have a legit, you know, I guess, gripe when their taxpayers, when their money goes up. Many of them move here and they don't want to pay taxes at all. We all know that. They don't. They're not interested in road and bridge or library or anything like that, or schools. And they're not going to vote for anything. It's always a no. The one thing that I see, and I taught for 34 years in this district. I still coach track. It's my 44th year. Kids want opportunities. I had a parent tell me the other day, he goes, you know what? I think my kid really needs to go to LPO. But he wants to take auto shop and he wants to weld. And with the 60-minute class, he's not going to have time to go back and forth. So he's made the decision to go into Sandpoint High School. And I hope that he has success there. But he's doing what he wants to do. Someone told me one time, someone sitting in this room said there's hundreds of kids that need this school. It's not up to us to put those kids in that school. It's up to the parents. If there's 100 kids out there, where are they? I haven't seen them. I mean, if they really want to go, their parents will go through and say, okay, well, I got 3 out of the 5, or 4 out of the 5, or you can become pregnant, and that automatically puts you in there. So people forget about that. Those aren't good things. okay? Stuff happens, but those aren't good things. We're trying to give kids an opportunity. I had a friend of mine in Boise who was a lifetime teacher, and he said, you know, the goal of any school district is not to have 100 kids in their at-risk programs. If your programs are working and those kids can be incorporated and they feel safe and they're being nurtured and they get what they need in order to learn and become citizens, you know, that's what we're trying to do. So I don't know, I'm really disappointed. I know a lot of people that are sitting in here like right now that
A lot of us that's will save.
yeah, but
Yeah.
but the thing is,
Hey, quiet.
the thing is opportunities. We all want opportunities, and we want them for our kids and grandkids. And you know, the bottom line is, we're not going to agree on everything, but I don't see the status quo right now being the best thing for these kids. And that's my opinion.
I was told I wasn't welcome.
That's enough. Another outbreak and this is over. People can go, okay? We're trying to have a civilized meeting here. Let's keep it that way and show some respect. Any more outbreaks and you're done. You're gone. So if you're gonna do it, just leave now. Understand? Thanks. Does anybody else have any comments?
Yeah,
or
I just
questions?
wanted to say, I hope that what you're hearing is that we support this program, we support the kids. The community supports the kids. You guys have proven over and over these last few months what a family you are. You come here, you show up, the community supports you, you support each other. I have no doubt that that can continue.
President Hutchins, you have anything to add?
I think it's the right thing to do for the kids. It's the fiscally responsible thing to do. It's not going to be the popular opinion in this room. I know that, but that's what I feel is the right thing to do for our district.
Thank you. No more discussion. We have a motion on the floor, and we'll let's move forward with the vote. When you a roll call vote for, yeah, that can be a roll call vote for resolution, please.
Roll call vote, Trustee Wood.
Aye.
Trustee Hutchins. Trustee Molly Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Demers.
Aye.
Chair Lonnie Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Next order of business.
We're not done. Read your packets. Wow. You'll understand the soul of that school. Oh, we're leaving.
Please
We're
do.
leaving.
Okay.
You have no idea how many of us couldn't
Please
go
go
to
ahead
the
and leave.
high school, be around those kids who have no idea how important the second
Enough.
campus is for these children. You don't get it. You will, if you need to. These kids matter.
All right, moving forward. Next, we have second reading of policy.
People are being discouraged and not able to enroll at
Order.
Conrad High School.
Please.
Yeah,
Go
councils
ahead.
have been told not to enroll people.
Next up, we have the second reading of policies. First on the list is 2420, Title I, Family Engagement. This is a revised policy. Excuse me, there was.
Just a few changes on that.
Yep. Just
Yeah,
some.
there was no more questions on what was, what we recommended. There was no more questions.
Yeah, we had no more questions on the changes. Back to the case. I would entertain a motion for 2420.
I make a motion to adopt into revisions policy 2420, Title I, Family Engagement.
I second.
Is there any further discussion or questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we are on to board non-action items. We have first reading of policies. This first one up is a brand new one. It's 2353. It's the minute of silence. And it is exactly that. There's a minute of silence at the beginning of each day, in each school, in every district of the state. I'm assuming that everybody has read through this. It is straightforward. I do imagine that there will be some questions and some fallout that comes from this policy, but
I feel like it will be a struggle, but
it is
it's a policy.
reflected in the new law. So this is the model policy to.
I have a question about it though.
Yeah.
So it says students who fail to comply with these requirements may be subject to appropriate disciplinary action in accordance with district policy. So we set that.
Yeah.
We will set that policy. And if a teacher, do we set the policy for the teacher also if they choose not to, or is that something that the state does?
No, that would be something that we
So
would.
we would set the policy for the student and the
Yeah.
teacher for that.
Yeah.
So a moment of silence, like as soon as the kids are seated.
It says at or near the beginning
Right.
of the
So
day.
people aren't running back and forth. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
The state is mandating this.
The legislature passed this in the last legislative session. And this contains the actual words from the law.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It specifically says the individual choice, reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in other silent activity that does not interfere or distract from others. That's specific. Silence
Right.
in the law, and
Yeah.
whatever staff person is in the classroom is required by law to maintain the silence
Okay.
for 1 minute.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on that one? And that obviously goes into the next one, 4175, required annual notices. And the only thing that's added in here is that moment, or minute of silence.
Right.
And does anybody have any other questions on that one? Okay. Any administrative announcements?
Oh, who wants to go?
Should I start?
She's right.
What'd you bring today? What'd you bring?
Do you have props?
Summer break feels so good, but it also feels really, really good to see all of you today. I brought 3 things. First is some of our new, you don't want to sit in front of me? Some is our new ELA curriculum. Our Lisa McElroy, the whole administrative staff did an amazing job. But this curriculum, our teachers, 100% of Northside teachers went and participated in the training the last contract day, so that we could all because they were excited about it. But also the perk is we got our curriculum in our hands. And of course, that curriculum was delivered late, which is not ideal. But Lisa and Daniel Adams and so many people rallied. And the second it came to our school, we had somebody in there going through it all, making sure that it got to our teachers. So it was pretty fantastic, and I just want to give huge kudos because the teachers that wanted it in their hands have it in their hands to start prepping for next year on their own time. So that's really exciting. And then, thanks. They are cleaning, our facilities department is cleaning tirelessly at our school right now. Their rooms look amazing. It looks really crazy right now, but it's all looking fresh and clean, and for being such an old building, they do such a nice job making it ready for students that are coming soon. And the last thing is you guys don't know, but you do know, Northside is old, and oftentimes we lose our heat in the middle of winter. And it's a really, really big deal. And we are currently having some new HVAC pieces that are being put into our building so that we will have heat going forward, which is fantastic, and I'm really, really excited about it. So those are my summer comments.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who wants to follow that up?
No.
She
stole
Give me
mine.
the soap.
I know, I was in a school today, and I do call it the
did go by on Saturday night, the lights were off, there was no activities going on. It was like, whoa, just for a moment maybe it did. But when I went in today, the custodial staff is just doing a phenomenal job. Facilities are getting C-Tech ready, and it just looks kind of like a mess, but when you start digging in, everything's getting shiny on the floors, and we're just really appreciative for all the work that goes on in the summer. Gets us ready for fall.
Yeah.
No other props.
Excellent. That's all. Case, anything? Okay.